Have you ever found yourself irritated by someone, perhaps even enraged by their words or actions, only to later realize that the emotional reaction wasn't as much about them as it was about you? What if, instead of reacting, you paused for just a moment and asked yourself why? What if that irritation, that frustration, that emotional storm inside you could be the very key to understanding something deeper within yourself? You see, every time you feel irritation or anger rise up inside of you in response to someone's behavior, there's more happening than meets the eye. It's easy to assume that the person in front of you is the problem, that their behavior is the root cause of your reaction. But I want you to consider something. What if the real source of that emotion lies inside of you? What if that irritation is a reflection of something deeper within you, something unresolved or even repressed? Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist and one of the most influential minds in the history of psychology, proposed a groundbreaking idea. He said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Think about that for a moment. Let that sink in. When we're irritated by someone else, what Jung suggests is that there's an opportunity for us to see something about ourselves that we might not have been aware of. That irritation is like a mirror, showing us something we haven't yet fully acknowledged. Imagine the last time you were irritated by someone. Maybe it was a friend who didn't show up when you needed them, or a colleague who was rude or dismissive. Maybe it was a partner who failed to meet your expectations, or a stranger who judged you. How did that make you feel? Was it a sharp anger? Was it a hurt that lingered long after the event? What Jung believed is that these emotions, especially the ones we feel in reaction to others, are signals. They are messages from our unconscious, calling our attention to something within ourselves. They show us the places where we are still unresolved, where our own shadows lie hidden. And these shadows aren't necessarily dark or evil. They're simply the parts of ourselves that we haven't fully integrated or understood. Let's explore this concept of the shadow a bit further. In Jungian psychology, the shadow refers to those parts of ourselves that we suppress, deny, or reject. These are aspects of our personality that we don't want to acknowledge because they don't align with the image we have of ourselves. Perhaps it's a trait you're embarrassed about, a fear you don't want to face, or a desire you consider inappropriate. The shadow is often made up of these hidden aspects of our being, the ones we push into the unconscious because we think they don't belong in the light of day. However, these repressed parts don't simply disappear. In fact, they often find ways to show up in our lives. And one of the most common ways is through our reactions to others. Imagine a moment when you felt triggered by someone else's behavior. Maybe they did something that felt disrespectful or dismissive. Maybe they displayed a characteristic that you found intolerable. Whatever it was, your reaction was immediate. It was emotional, visceral, almost like a knee-jerk response. What Jung would say is that in that moment, what you were really reacting to wasn't necessarily the other person's behavior, but a projection of your own shadow. You see, whenever we react strongly to something that someone else does, we're often projecting onto them something that we cannot accept within ourselves. So, if someone is arrogant or rude and you feel your anger flare, it could be because deep down, you fear that you have similar traits that you've hidden away. If someone is overly needy or clingy and you feel irritated, it might be because you've suppressed your own vulnerabilities and your fear of being dependent on others. If someone judges or criticizes you and you feel a deep sense of injustice, perhaps it's because you've not yet forgiven yourself for something that you feel guilty about. What Jung suggests is that these reactions are signals. They are pointing us toward parts of ourselves that need healing, understanding, and acceptance. These are the aspects of our psyche that we often overlook or deny, but which hold the key to our growth and transformation. Jung referred to this process as projection. Projection occurs when we attribute our own feelings, traits, or impulses onto others. For example, if you feel anger towards someone, that anger might actually be a projection of your own internal frustration or resentment that you've repressed. The person who triggered you is simply a mirror, reflecting back to you what you have not yet accepted within yourself. Think of it like this. You're standing in front of a mirror, and instead of seeing your reflection, you see someone else. That other person is acting out all the things you haven't come to terms with. They are showing you, through their behavior, the very traits that you've pushed away, denied, or buried in the depths of your unconscious. The challenge is that most of us don't see it this way. We don't take the time to stop and reflect on why we're feeling the way we do. We immediately get caught up in the other person's behavior and our own reaction to it. We engage in a battle of egos where both parties try to defend their position, prove their right, and justify their actions. But here's the key. True growth comes from looking inward, not outward. It comes from recognizing that our emotional reactions are mirrors that reflect the parts of ourselves that need attention. If we're willing to look deeply, we can use those mirrors to discover who we truly are and what we need to heal. So, I want you to think about the last time someone irritated you. Really reflect on it. What about their behavior set you off? What emotions did you feel? Were you angry, frustrated, sad, or something else entirely? Now, instead of blaming them, I want you to ask yourself, what does this irritation say about me? What part of me is being triggered? Is it a fear, a hidden desire, a belief about myself that I haven't fully examined? This is not about blaming yourself. It's about understanding yourself. Every irritation is an opportunity to ask the deeper question, what part of myself am I not yet aware of? By acknowledging these emotions, by stopping to reflect instead of react, we can begin to uncover the truth. We can begin to embrace the parts of ourselves that we've hidden or denied. And in doing so, we start to heal. This process isn't easy. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face the parts of ourselves that we've kept in the shadows. But it is in that very process of self-discovery that we become whole. When we stop projecting our shadows onto others, when we stop seeing the world as a series of triggers and instead start seeing it as a mirror, we take the first step toward true emotional freedom. We no longer react from a place of unconscious defense. We respond from a place of understanding, clarity, and inner peace. Now that we've looked at how our reactions to others are often projections of our own shadow, let's dive deeper into how these emotional triggers deplete us and how we can begin to break free from the cycle of reactivity. In Part 1, we explored how every irritation, every emotional reaction to someone else holds a deeper meaning. It points us toward parts of ourselves that we have not fully accepted, parts of our psyche that remain hidden in the shadows. The key to transformation, to healing, is found in recognizing these triggers and using them as opportunities for self-discovery. But understanding our projections is only the beginning. The next crucial step is understanding how these unconscious reactions drain us, both emotionally and energetically, and how we can take back control of our inner world. Every time we react to someone else, whether it's with anger, frustration, defensiveness, or even the need to please, we're expending energy. And this energy, as Carl Jung described, is psychic energy, the life force that fuels our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Psychic energy is limited. It is not something that can be replenished indefinitely without conscious effort. Yet, so many of us live as if our energy is infinite. We give it away to others without thinking. We react immediately to their words, their behaviors, their judgments, without ever considering the cost. Every time we feel compelled to explain ourselves, defend our position, or justify our feelings, we lose a piece of that energy. Jung's concept of psychic energy isn't just an abstract idea. It's the very essence of who we are. It's what sustains us. And when we constantly give it away to others, whether they deserve it or not, we begin to feel drained, depleted, and disconnected from ourselves. Think about it. How often do you find yourself giving away your energy to people who don't even value it? How many times have you exhausted yourself emotionally, trying to please someone or explain yourself to someone who doesn't truly listen? How many times have you kept yourself emotionally available, only to feel empty at the end of the day? This emotional exhaustion is a direct result of being too available, of being too reactive. Every time we engage in emotional reactivity, we lose part of our psychic energy. And the more we engage in this cycle, the more drained we feel. It's no wonder that many people feel perpetually tired, overwhelmed, and unable to connect with their true selves. So, how do we stop this cycle? How do we break free from constantly giving away our energy? The first step is awareness, being aware of how we react and the cost of those reactions. We must begin to recognize when our energy is being drained and choose not to participate in the cycle. This is where emotional availability comes into play. We've been conditioned to believe that being emotionally available to others is a virtue. We've been taught that we must always be ready to respond, to react, to provide comfort, to please, to say yes, even when we want to say no. But here's the truth. Emotional availability is not always a virtue. In fact, it can be a prison. When you are constantly available to everyone else, emotionally, physically, mentally, you lose yourself. You become a reflection of everyone else's needs and expectations. You become a pawn in other people's emotional games. And in doing so, you are abandoning your own needs, your own peace, and your own sense of self. True emotional availability is not about being available to everyone at all times. It is about being available to yourself first. It is about choosing when and how you give your energy. It's about setting boundaries, emotional, physical, and mental boundaries that preserve your energy and allow you to remain whole. When you learn to protect your psychic energy, when you stop reacting automatically to every emotional trigger, you begin to create space for yourself. You stop being emotionally drained by the demands of others. You stop feeling like a puppet being pulled in every direction. Instead, you become the creator of your own energy, the sovereign of your own emotional world. This is where silence comes in. Silence is not the absence of noise, but the absence of reactivity. It's the space between stimulus and response. It's the ability to pause, to breathe, to reflect, before engaging with the world around you. When you choose silence over reaction, you are choosing your own energy over external demands. You are choosing to be present with yourself, not with everyone else's expectations. And in that silence, you begin to reclaim your power. Here's the harsh reality. When you react emotionally, whether it's with anger, frustration, or defensiveness, you pay a price. That price is your peace. That price is your energy, and eventually, if you keep giving your energy away, you'll end up feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and disconnected from your true self. But here's the thing. The price isn't just emotional exhaustion. The price is also the loss of self-connection. Every time you react from a place of unconscious emotionality, you move further away from your true self. You become a mirror for everyone else's projections, rather than a reflection of your own inner truth. Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear, to fit into the world and meet the expectations of others. The persona is necessary to some extent in society, but when it becomes the dominant force in our lives, it disconnects us from our authentic selves. The more we wear the persona, the more we lose touch with who we truly are. And the more we wear the persona, the more emotionally reactive we become. We are no longer acting from a place of clarity and purpose. We are acting from a place of fear, neediness, and external validation. When you choose to stop reacting, when you choose to set boundaries, you begin to remove the mask. You begin to step into your authenticity, and that is where true power lies. True power doesn't come from constantly defending yourself. It doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from knowing yourself deeply enough to recognize when to say no. It comes from the ability to sit in silence, in stillness, and to choose how you engage with the world around you. When you stop reacting, when you stop giving your energy away without thought, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You become the master of your own energy. And in that mastery, you find the freedom to live authentically, with purpose and with peace. Now that we've explored how our emotional reactions are reflections of our unresolved shadows, how these reactions drain our energy, and how we can begin to stop the cycle of reactivity, it's time to talk about the most profound transformation you can make: the journey back to yourself. This is the path of individuation, a concept central to Carl Jung's work. Individuation is the process of becoming who you truly are, not the person society expects you to be, not the version of yourself shaped by other people's opinions, but the authentic, whole, and integrated self that exists deep within you. This process requires you to step away from the chaos, to stop reacting to the world's demands, and to start listening to the quiet voice within you. It's about choosing yourself. It's about knowing when to step back, when to withdraw, and when to simply be present with your own truth. There is a power that few understand, the power of silence. But this silence is not just the absence of sound. It's not a passive withdrawal. It is a conscious choice. It is the refusal to engage in battles that drain your energy, the refusal to react to emotional manipulation, and the decision to stop explaining yourself to others who don't truly see you. True silence is an act of sovereignty, the act of choosing to protect your energy and your peace. It is not the silence of avoidance or cowardice. It is the silence of strength. It is the silence of someone who has become master of their emotional world. Someone who understands that their energy is sacred and must be preserved. When you choose silence, you stop playing the emotional game. You stop being the one who is always available to respond, to defend, to explain. You stop being the emotional sponge that soaks up everyone else's chaos and negativity. Instead, you become a still, steady presence, someone who is not moved by the noise of the world, but who stands grounded in their own truth. This kind of silence is not emptiness. It is a presence. It's an amplified, potent presence that communicates more than words ever could. And those who are not used to dealing with this kind of silence will be confused, unsettled, and even disturbed. They will no longer know how to engage with you, and in their confusion, they may try to provoke a reaction. But remember, your silence speaks louder than any words could. Of course, choosing silence comes with a price. It's not an easy path to walk. People will resist you. They will try to pull you back into the emotional chaos they are used to. They will challenge you, accuse you of being cold, distant, or uncaring. They will question why you no longer react the way you used to, why you've changed. This resistance is not a reflection of your wrongness. It is simply a reflection of their unresolved needs, their inability to understand that your silence is not rejection, it is empowerment. When you stop reacting, when you stop giving away your energy, it forces others to look at themselves. It forces them to confront their own emotional wounds and dependencies. And not everyone is ready for that. The truth is, when you begin to reclaim your energy and your sovereignty, you will lose some people. You will lose those who only valued you for what you provided to them. Validation, comfort, distraction. You will lose the people who depended on you to be emotionally reactive, to always be there to fulfill their needs. But here's the thing. Those who leave were never truly there for you in the first place. They were there for the role you played, not for the person you truly are. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you begin to embrace this silence and emotional sovereignty, you become more valuable. The people who remain in your life will be those who genuinely respect your boundaries, your energy, and your presence. They will be those who see you for who you really are, not for the mask you've been wearing to please them. You will no longer be a puppet. You will be a creator of your own reality. And this is where true freedom lies. The freedom to choose your own path, to choose your own energy, and to be in control of your emotional world. When you stop reacting, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop being emotionally available to everyone, something profound happens within you. You begin to reconnect with your true self. The parts of you that were hidden, suppressed, or ignored begin to resurface. You begin to embrace all of yourself, the light, the shadow, and everything in between. This process of self-acceptance is the rebirth. It is the process of shedding the false versions of yourself that you've been carrying for so long. The ones built on the expectations of others. The ones built on the need to please, to avoid rejection. As you let go of these false identities, you step into your true power. This rebirth is not without discomfort. It is uncomfortable to be misunderstood. It is uncomfortable to be accused of changing. It is uncomfortable to let go of the people and situations that once defined you. But this discomfort is part of the transformation. It is the growing pains of becoming whole, of stepping into your authentic self. And as you continue on this path, as you continue to choose silence and sovereignty, you will become stronger. You will become more connected to your inner truth. You will no longer feel the need to prove yourself. You will no longer need the validation of others. You will stand firm in your own power. So, I ask you, are you ready to choose yourself? Are you ready to stop being controlled by the emotional reactions of others? Are you ready to stop being a puppet in someone else's emotional game and instead take the reins of your own life? If you are, then it's time to make a decision. It's time to choose your peace. It's time to say no to the demands of others no to the need to please, and yes to your own truth. It's time to embrace silence as your greatest strength and reclaim your emotional sovereignty. And it starts with one simple step. Choose to stop reacting. Choose to stop explaining. Choose to stop defending. Choose to stop justifying your absence. Choose to protect your energy as if it were sacred, because it is. If this message resonated with you, if you're ready to stop reacting and reclaim your energy, then let it be known. Type in the comments, "I choose my peace." Not for anyone else, but for yourself. For the version of you who is done abandoning their soul for the sake of others. For the version of you who no longer needs to explain, justify, or please. And if you know someone who is still caught in the cycle of emotional reactivity, share this video with them. Let them know that they too can choose themselves. Let them know that they too can stop reacting and start living authentically. Your energy is sacred. Start treating it like it is.